Welcome to this week's Modern Retail Plus Talk. My name is Cale Weissman. I'm the editor here at Modern Retail, and I'm really happy that you all are joining us today. This week, we're going to be talking about growth marketing. We have two pros from Brooklinen. We have Katherine and Eduardo, who handle PR and growth marketing and all of the stuff in between. They handle different facets of it, and they'll talk all about that when I bring on over to them. So I want to give a few states of the industry just to talk about what exactly is going on as a kind of backdrop before we enter into the conversation with Brooklinen. The first one should come as no surprise. I think everyone in this room is probably very well aware, but the retail landscape changed overnight. Shopping patterns changed. People were home. They weren't going into stores. The economy changed. Everybody has sort of reacted in different ways. And as a result, brands, retailers, everyone has had to shift the way they're thinking and the way they act. One of the interesting things that's happened over the last few months is that customer acquisitions costs went down. The conversation 6 months ago, a year ago, were that they were shooting up, and all of the digitally native brands that rose to ascendance because they could get cheap real estate on Facebook and Google, they could no longer use that playbook because the costs were going up. Now they're down once again, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that you should buy right now, because people aren't shopping the same way they were 6 months ago. Things are very different. Off of that, everybody wanted to talk about profitability a little bit ago. Now the question of profitability is even more important. Every brand needs to keep a balance sheet, and if they don't, they're going to be in trouble, because it's probably harder to raise VC cash right now. And if they are spending a lot on certain areas that aren't proving returns, they're going to, quite frankly, run out of money. And that is top of mind for a lot of brands in the space. Part of that is figuring out how to message correctly, which we're going to talk about very specifically today, and I'm excited to dig into that. So how to message correctly, where to message, what it is you're saying, does it resonate? These are all questions that have always been important to brands, but now are acutely important and are dictating which ones are doing okay and which ones aren't doing as well. And the most important point, and this might seem obvious, but it's something that everybody is thinking about and no one quite knows how to act, is that things will probably stabilize in the next few months, year, but it's not going to be the same as before. Just as an example, people are shopping online more than ever. It's seen double-digit growth when before it only saw single-digit. It's probably not going to remain at that rate. Things won't be that sticky, to be completely honest. But we don't exactly know how these shopping patterns will shift. And so it's important, when you're thinking about how you're growing your company, who your audience is, and where best to reach them, to realize that you can't try and rely on a strategy that you used a year ago, because the world is completely different. Those are the 5 big points. We'll probably tangentially hit them as time goes on, but I'm now going to throw it over to Katherine and Eduardo, who are going to give a little presentation about Brooklinen, about the company, about what they do, and about some of the things that they've been working on specifically in the growth marketing world over the last few months. And so let me kick it off to you. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi, Cale. Thanks so much for having us, and hi, Modern Retail family. I'm Katherine O'Keefe. I'm the Director of PR and Partnerships over at Brooklinen. I've been working with the brand both on the agency and in-house side for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah, my name is Eduardo. I'm a growth marketing analyst. I help managing digital channels, so especially Facebook. And yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, Cale.
Great. And before we get kicked off, wanted to share with all of our attendees here a little discount code for the Modern Retail family. Feel free to use this for 15% off, Modern Retail 15. And with that said, we're happy to jump into this much more timely theme, how to growth market during a crisis. Just to level set, hoping that you're somewhat aware of Brooklinen as a brand and what we do. We got our start as a direct-to-consumer bedding brand, and in the past 6 years have expanded into new categories, including bathroom, in loungewear, and also moving beyond the bedroom into other areas of the home with our marketplace concept, Spaces by Brooklinen. We are a largely e-com based company, although we also distribute through Amazon and Zola. And we do have one brick and mortar store open, which opens about a month before we had to shut our doors again. But we have huge intentions to expand in this particular area quite a bit over the next 3 years, with an eye to open about 30 stores. Of course, that might be reevaluated given the current climate, but is still hoping that we can return a bit to normal and refocus on that brick and mortar experience. Now we are much the same as we were. We're still largely e-com based, but a huge part of our strategy has turned to exploring pivots for the brick and mortar retail philosophies. In exploring that, I think, Kaylee, if you want to go to the next slide, this is you've heard it so many times, this is a crazy, crazy, unprecedented situation. It is not at all uncommon to throw your hands up and really wonder what to do. We felt the same way, and we hope through this presentation to be able to share a few of the strategies that have worked quite well for us in navigating these circumstances. So Kaylee, if you wouldn't mind, we can kick off. We're going to explore 3 major themes today. First, modifying tone and content, how we've done that, what has worked, what hasn't. Next, we'll be looking at how we target our offline customers in this increasingly online world. To Kale's point, the e-com and shopping online rates have doubled. This is certainly an area that, although it is our bread and butter, there's always opportunities to enhance and create more of a stress-free shopping experience. And then finally, looking at a few ways to entice new cohorts. While we are all struggling and trying to maintain business as close to usual in this unprecedented climate, there is still an eye to growing the business. So how can we do that considerately, respectfully, and successfully in a pandemic? So with that said, I'm happy to kick off just speaking a bit on modifying tone and content. I think Brooklinen as a brand, one of our an area where we've had tremendous success is the customer relationship. It is intrinsic to our brand DNA to treat our customer like gold, and the customer, it really always does come first. In fact, our mission statement is we want you to be comfortable, and we take that quite seriously. It expands beyond the products that we offer, which we hope we all find comfortable, and really informs the lifestyle choices, the business development choices, any newness that we bring out. So, in this time where we were incredibly unsure of how to speak to our customers and show them that same level of loyalty and respect that they've shown us over the years, we found that it ultimately was best to just ask how they wanted to be spoken to, how they wanted those conversations to continue. The feedback loop has always been incredibly important to us, and we spend a lot of time and effort on making that feedback loop as efficient as possible. Specifically in this case, we took to our social media, and excuse me if these sirens in the background are causing a little bit of distraction. Another new area to navigate during the pandemic. But we took to our social media. We added in additional questions to our post-purchase survey. And a lot of the feedback that we heard, was asking for us to kind of keep business as usual. We, as a brand, are rather cheeky. We are very humorous in our messaging and in our content. And we were concerned that would feel really out of touch if we continued along that line. Hearing from our customers that they really did value the humor and the cheekiness and the lightheartedness that we had given to them over the past couple of years, and that they wanted to see more of that. They wanted to see work from home hacks. They wanted to see more dog photos. They also wanted to see discounts. We took all of that into account, and we've actually applied it. specifically for discounts, we are not a brand that runs sales often. We do a birthday sale, and then we offer a discount for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We did, for the first time ever, a discount on our loungewear collection exclusively. It was the most requested product, as everybody's moving into more of a work from home lifestyle, and more interested in upping their loungewear quantity. That, did quite well for us, and is something that we'll probably replicate in the future as we hear from more of our consumers what kind of discounts they're wanting to save from us. We also continue to check in. We offer surveys and quick questions on our social media. Our CX team has been a wonderful, wonderful repository to gather consumer feedback, distill it, and then turn it into action. We've heard from a lot of our consumers that they want to be really in the know with what sort of good works we're doing to help alleviate some of the pressures felt by our audience in this time. We've been fortunate enough to direct some funds and product to great organizations like Direct Relief, America's Food Fund, and Bowery Mission, amongst others. We've taken this as an opportunity to partner with some of our like-minded brands, great partners like Bombas, who have wonderful giving philosophies built in, and we're able to enhance some of their giving. And we know that our customers are responding really well to this too. So all of that said, I think, while we're modifying tone and content, the most important thing is to check in with your customers and ensure that that's actually what they want. And then ultimately to make sure that you're doing this in a way that still feels authentic, that you're not moving off brands, that you're still speaking to them in the way that they've come to know and trust over years and years of being loyal customers to us. We have a few creative examples. Eduardo, I can hand it over to you at this point to share some of those.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, we were able to repurpose an old Subway campaign with stay-at-home messaging, and we're able to repurpose that to Facebook ads. And we've seen good performance, good click-through rate, because consumers can resonate with the messaging. We've been pushing ads with addressing the new pain points that consumers now have, because now you have new demographics that are shopping online. People that were before, offline. I'm already starting the second topic here. but people that were before offline, they are now having to shop online. They're having to shift their consumer habits towards e-commerce. And with that, you have to think about the new pain points that they have. And therefore, you have to push different messaging and different creative. So incorporating not only the Subway creative that we pushed online, but we also pushed messaging to address these new pain points. What are these new pain points? So basically, the delivery process, right? Is the delivery process smooth? Is it great? Like, can I trust the delivery process? Is it quick? So these questions are extremely important to address and incorporate into your advertising. Second thing, for example, your customer service. Can I reach out to a human on the other end of your company and be able to get an answer quickly? Do you offer some sort of warranty on your products? How is the return and exchange process? Do I have to pay to return and exchange, or how long do I have to return and exchange a product that maybe I don't resonate with? So it's really important to incorporate that into your advertising, so you're addressing all these new pain points that customers have during COVID. Also, I think it's important to not only address what should be done in advertising, but also address what should not be done. I think it's incredibly important to look at your messaging from a compassionate and truly caring about your customer's place, instead of how can I capitalize on this pandemic. I think when you should come from a very human side and look at your customers, as such. So I would not bring up COVID, in your advertising. I think that can come across as disingenuous, and that's definitely not what you want to do as a brand. You can really hurt brand equity there.
Yeah, I think that, that also begs a really great point too. We offer bedding, we offer loungewear, we offer bathroom linens and some other home goods. We are not medical experts. So we certainly do not want to present ourselves as credible medical authorities and muddy any messaging to our customer base that might, offer any suggestions that might not align with state and local regulations. So also ensuring that we're being really careful there. And, while we're all certainly very aware of what's happening, delivering those messages in a truly Brooklinen way without running into new categories that we can't really speak to. But I think that is actually a great segue to targeting offline customers. And I will hand this off to Eduardo, but I think overall, as Eduardo mentioned, we do have a number of customers who were traditionally offline who are forced to move into this online model. So I think here the idea is not so much targeting offline customers, but enhancing your online experience to speak to those offline customers and making the experience more comfortable for them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's important to think about how can you further target these consumers. So for example, I think it's incredibly important to think about that people that were offline, like I was saying before, are now getting into the online spectrum more and more. Mm-hmm. Therefore, when you have more eyeballs, right, in the digital advertising platforms like Facebook, like depending on the category, like Google, so more people searching for different products. So when you have more of that and you have less companies advertising, that means that the cost to advertise is much lower. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I would really think about the channels that you're currently advertising on. So I really think it's important, even though we're talking about targeting offline customers, I would really think about, Facebook right now, for example, like the cost to advertise on Facebook is much lower than it used to be. And with the elections at the end of the year, costs are going to go all the way through the roof. And when it comes to offline channels, we've tested direct mail in the past. Like it hasn't really worked for us. We're not really running direct mail. We're still testing TV. These channels can be interesting. And also we've been seeing great performance, for example, with radio and podcast. Mm-hmm. So radio and podcast performance hasn't really dipped. And one thing that is really cool that we've done with radio and podcast is that the hosts of the shows, they actually talk a little bit about how important it is to be comfortable at home. They talk about their own experiences and in these radio and podcast shows. And that has really resonated with consumers, and we've been able to see really great performance. So again, it comes down to the messaging.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to reiterate then too, I think, the increased availability of digital spend that we have has allowed us to sub-segment a bit more and adjust our messaging so that we are speaking to more of these offline customers that are moving online. We are relying quite a bit on podcasts and radio where you do have that authentic audience connection and are able to share, true organic reviews with your audience that's already bought into the content that you're providing on a regular basis. And then also for CX2, ensuring that we have enough resources available to help with those more offline methods of finding resource and help. For example, we have a huge increase in the number of team members who are taking phone calls when traditionally they would have gone through a site bot or even SMS texting too. So phone calls have been a huge area of growth for us. And then I think for the offline customers, capitalizing on that stress-free shopping experience, standing out and making sure that the process is comfortable, that we are informing and educating our customers and this new, more offline customer base to the same extent that we've been educating and building brand loyalists out of this more urban millennial primary audience that Brooklinen has as a shopper. And we do that with things, slight modifications to our website. For example, focusing on more textural shots for each of the PDPs to really give more of that offline experience. You can't go to our store, you can't see and touch and feel the materials anymore. But when you have a close-up and you can see the airiness of our linen weave or the differences between the percale and sateen cotton options, that does help in informing the decision and bettering the experience in lessening the return rate and also just, really making this as stress-free as possible. There's plenty of stress out there. We do not want our customers to feel stressed when they're with us. And I think actually we can probably move on to enticing new cohorts, utilizing some of that existing content that we have and sharing it in new ways. As Eduardo mentioned, our subway campaign, this was a campaign that we launched 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. And the focus was that our sheets are made for more than sleeping in. The creative shows people, having pillow fights in bed, eating in bed, with their pets, with their children, playing games, reading books, working on their computers. That is kind of the new normal that we're all experiencing now. So revisiting some of those old visuals and making them fresh and new and repackaging for this current climate has certainly helped to draw in some of these new audiences, but also using more content opportunities, partnerships, harnessing technology in new ways. For example, we did last month a virtual concert with Snoop Dogg on IGTV. We had really great feedback with that. For myself, we traditionally host a summer event that for media and influencers and some of our affiliate partners. We can't do that this year, but in its stead, we're offering a virtual analog combo with a mailer and a Zoom event. And we've gotten great feedback on that so far. So I think, wherever you can harness that existing technology and make it feel fresh and new in a similar way to what we've done with our existing creative, we're bringing in more, a wider audience. And then I think the final content note on that form, we are leveraging our social tremendously to bring in a sense of well-being, meditative qualities, some calming activities, and sharing them in an IG live setting. So we've had meditation sessions, we've had yoga instructors, we've had astrologists, we've had many new partners who can bring their own audiences over to Brooklinen and share that, more of our mission statement that we want you to be comfortable through their own lens too. So all of that has been really successful for us. And we hope that it applies to many other brands too. Eduardo, did I miss anything there?
No, I think that's it. And I think I just want to reiterate my point of these new cohorts. Always think about the pain points, right? Mm-hmm. What is heaven and hell for my customer? And really start thinking about those pain points and how you can address those pain points, because that's how you serve your customers, right? So it's really, I for example, one way to serve your customers as well, like we said before, is giving them a lighthearted message. We did that by repurposing our subway campaign, into putting that digitally, and that worked really well. So our subway campaign had a lot of fun messaging into it, and not really addressing pain points, but that really resonated with consumers as well. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Kaylee, I think at this point, if we have any Q&A, we're happy to take some questions.
There, I'm unmuted. All right. Hey, that was so great and so thorough. Thank you so much. I have many questions prepared, but also anyone who's attending, there's a Q&A button at the bottom. Just click it and type in your question. And the more questions we have from participants, the better. So I want to ask, and this could go to either one of you. How close are you paying attention to like macro consumer trends in terms of, people were stocking up at first, people then were getting more comfortable is that changing the way you're approaching marketing campaigns for what specific products you're pushing? Have you just been more focusing on your own internal data about what's been resonating?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kale. It is so important to keep an eye on what's happening externally as well as what we're seeing internally through our own customer data. I think the loungewear sale, it definitely rose from paying attention to those macro trends. Just the new reality that people are spending way more time at home, that they're looking for the sense of comfort. There is less of an emphasis on more professional wear and a desire to find something comfy and cozy to keep you feeling good during this time. So yeah, we've definitely been paying attention to macro trends and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, we're very aware that some product categories, they have, there are many more people are selling way more for certain product categories, like a lot of sales for some and decreasing sales for other product categories. So we're very aware of that because we don't want to keep, if we're seeing less people interested in certain product category, we definitely don't want to keep pushing that. And on top of that, for other, when it comes to like macro, like let's say metrics, right? So I mentioned before, CPMs, for example, let's say Facebook, being very on top of that, you have to be very aware of the opportunity, right, that you have by having lower CPM. Because when you can reach so many more people. So that's like massive opportunity right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And we've been seeing how I've been looking at how that trends over time because, for example, now it's starting to rise up a little bit when you come from a market perspective. So that's definitely something that we're taking a look at for sure.
Absolutely. The next question comes from Linda in the audience, and I'm going to sort of tack something on after that because I have a similar question. But her question is, what type of survey questions are you asking post-purchase? And I also want to know, has the volume of responses to surveys changed in the last few months? And sort of, because you mentioned that you're taking a lot of feedback in, how has sort of the cadence with which you're getting the feedback changed pre-COVID, post-COVID?
Yeah. Do you want to...
Go ahead, Eduardo.
Go ahead. Yeah, we survey our customers on a bi-weekly basis. The volume of answers hasn't changed. We survey customers that have reached out to us, that have talked to our CX team because they're more willing to give a response. So the volume of questions, of answers, it hasn't really changed. We're using surveying every way that we can. The questions that we ask our customers, they really vary. If we have like a sale coming ahead, then we're gonna focus the questions more on like, what kind of, what is an interesting discount for you, or what kind of products are you interested in if it's a gift with purchase event. Mm-hmm. So that's one way that we try to gather data.
Yeah, and specifically the questions that we're asking during this climate too, literally, what do you want to see from us in terms of content? And we get people, we are so fortunate to have a really, really wonderful audience that they're willing to spend the time and give us 5-paragraph essays on what they'd like to see. So it has been really informative. But we do find in general, asking exactly what you need from the customer is what will give you the best level of success. So we really try to, ask those questions directly and not overcomplicate them, not try to play around with the, specific copy too much. to open it up to interpretation. Asking what do you want to see from us has led to the best and most informative results.
Absolutely. You mentioned during the presentation that in terms of other marketing channels, podcasting and radio has been a really successful one. This is a very in the weeds question, but I'm always interested to know. I've heard that attribution is really difficult for those. So how are you approaching, is it just that you're looking at people who are using the codes from there? How are you teasing out what that is? Are you looking at other sort of areas of that to figure out what actually is working in terms of the actual listeners? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, we actually haven't been doing a lot of promo code attribution. That hasn't really worked well for us.
Okay.
Promo codes, they leak online.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can use it. It gets really complicated. So what we do at Brooklinen, we do post-checkout survey. So we basically look at all of that data, and we look at it on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis in order to be able to attribute those sales to.
Mm-hmm.
And we're asking there, how did you come to us, and giving, I think about 12 to 15 different channels, although we're operating in about 30, our largest channels. And then there is an opportunity to fill in more specifically where in those channels you found us. So if you, go to podcasts, you can then specify how I built this.
So I did just sort of going off that before all of this, I feel like one of the gold standards in terms of growth marketing when you were really doing a big campaign was Subway. And obviously that's pretty off the table right now. And so you mentioned podcast and radio. You mentioned that mailing hasn't really worked so well. Do you think, looking into the future, is there going to be a new gold standard for when you're sort of doing a big splashy campaign and you want to see results that will be sort of the new Subway, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I think we always have our eyes open for what that new opportunity is. As a brand, we are so willing to try anything at least once. And then we take as much data as we can and analyze it and understand where we can make that more efficient. Unfortunately, subways aren't working, but we do know that people are still moving. So in their cars more versus mass transit. So billboards might be more of a focus for us upcoming. In terms of other out of home too, while we can't have customers in our store, we are still using that as more of an opportunity to get some of that out of home advertising. Our store in Williamsburg, although we only have one brick and mortar location right now, our store in Williamsburg, has a beautiful garage door that we can't have people inside. The lights are off. That's a little sad, but we can use the garage door to apply cool vinyls and get a little more creative with how we're presenting existing campaigns too. And you can't go into the store, but you can still walk by, you can still drive by and get that impact.
Absolutely. So Eduardo, you mentioned sort of harnessing the Facebook opportunity because costs are low now. Talk about other channels, like especially experimental ones like TikTok, or perhaps smaller ones like Pinterest. What are the dynamics there? Have they shifted? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, it's hard to compete with Facebook, first of all. Like, it's extremely hard. Yeah, you can advertise on Snapchat, you can try TikTok, you can try, Pinterest, but I really, a lot of the attention is still on Facebook, and their algorithm is absolutely on point. It works extremely well. Really hard to beat that. So I would actually, it's all about the opportunity cost. If you start putting a lot of effort into like these other channels and testing it out, yeah, you can find great results, but where can you find great scale, right? So maybe you can find short-term results in one channel, but in order to like really find scale, systematically find scale, I think it's really important to double down on a big channel like Facebook.
I think with some of these new channels, I'm thinking specifically of TikTok too, what seems to work really well is having these very creative campaigns that inspire some sort of, action, a pose or a hashtag or, some way of engaging with the brands. And I think for us, we just haven't quite figured out like what that like Brooklinen TikTok dance is, or what our thing really is. So we're interested, but want to make a splash, want to be authentic, and just haven't quite nailed what that opportunity is.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you had the one brick and mortar place in Williamsburg, and that you had 30 in line. Who knows what's going to happen with that? Just in terms of the marketing perspective, brick and mortar, especially for digitally native brands like you, are huge marketing places as opposed to just like sales. Has that sort of calculus shifted even more? How are you looking at the reopenings and the openings of these in terms of how they talk about the brand, how much they actually sell based on actually just being a billboard?
Yeah, I think we're being forced to evaluate some of these questions on a more condensed timeline too. Our store, really, we do consider it a showpiece for the brand. It is a great physical representation of everything that we offer, and our team is truly, truly amazing, and also great brand ambassadors for us. The reality is we're going to be in a socially distant world for a very long time. So we've had to make some modifications to the merchandising of our store to allow for that more effectively, to allow for frequent deep cleanings, keeping our store staff safe, and having all, ensuring they're up to speed with PPE and city and local regulations. But as part of that, we've also had an opportunity to reevaluate what our emphasis really is in the store. And to your point, it does become more of an opportunity for us to bring to life interactive partnerships, to have more unique ways of not shopping in a shopping environment. So we're quite keen to launch with a few more partnerships when we open, and we think that that's going to be a great way to entice people to come back. We're also going to have to be very clear in our how we're approaching cleaning and ensuring safety for both our customers and our store team. So that will figure in quite heavily to what we plan to do. We're exploring opportunities like curbside delivery, of course, but buy online, pick up in store, ship to store, having just a cart outside of the store, so not even really selling in our store. Everything's on the table at this point too. But yes, we 100% are taking this as an opportunity to kind of step back and look at how this can become more of an interactive marketing play versus more of a sales focus.
Absolutely. You mentioned discounts briefly, and I want to dig more into this because you traditionally don't do discounts except for a few key points. You did one on loungewear. You're thinking about doing more down the line. What is the tightrope you're walking in terms of what customers are going to expect? Are you how are you thinking about that? And will this become more of a new normal now that you saw the success, or is it just going to be a few isolated things?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say if this is going to be a new normal. I think as a brand, we'd very much like for it not to be a new normal. We feel really confident in the pricing of our products and the value proposition that we're offering. So, a discount for us is truly meant to be a gift to the customer. I think in this time too, hearing from so many people that they were, almost immediately, we had a huge surge of feedback from our customers, people losing their jobs or, really having job anxiety, a lot of financial insecurity, and still wanting, it's honestly like so heartwarming to hear that so many people wanted to continue supporting our brand, but they didn't have the same means as they did even a few weeks ago. So that's kind of the lens through which we're approaching discounts. When we hear a lot of feedback for a particular collection, or we hear a lot of similar situations that really can justify offering that discount, then we are happy to do it. But we're trying not to make that part of our business model.
Absolutely. I'd be remiss to not ask you guys this, but what are your thoughts on Facebook's shops announced yesterday? What do you are brands like you going to be taking it up? How are you going to be approaching these new commerce features within the Facebook platform?
Yeah, actually, I think that presents a great opportunity for businesses that we're not selling online to actually sell online. So I think that's a massive opportunity. But I mean, for us, like we, on the paid side, we're it's not something we have explored yet a lot. So this is like super recent. I think the news came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No worries, no worries. No, I know what you're saying. Actually, I had a couple of people in the marketing team have actually given feedback to that product.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. I wasn't able to do it, but yeah, it's interesting. Definitely a great initiative by Facebook. Really, like I think especially at this time, you know what I mean? Just especially at this time. So yeah, just interested to see how it further develops.
And I think it plays well into, trying to ensure that we're really offering the stress-free shopping experience to our much wider audience that we're seeing as a result of not having any offline sales opportunities. We're really leaning into online. So any new channel, any new way to make it easier for our customers to get to us, we're definitely exploring quite heavily.
All right. And I'm going to ask one more question. And I'm sorry that there's a car alarm outside
Yeah.
for that. Just in terms of your overall growth marketing approach, have you been spending more, less, the same? How have you been sort of tying that back to the balance sheet in terms of just because of all the uncertainty?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to us, thankfully, since we sell products that are made for your home to make you feel comfortable. So, during this pandemic, our messaging and our products, they resonate with consumers. So we haven't, we've been really on top of our goals when it comes to, every KPI that you can possibly think of. So I can say that, certain channels, yeah, they've been getting more spend, right? Like for example, we're not trying to, take a risk on direct mail, right? Or we're not spending on Subway, but at the same time, we're doubling down on Facebook, let's say.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, I think overall probably about the same spend, just reappropriating funds from certain channels and doubling up on channels that are definitely still working during this time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that about wraps up the time that we have. Katherine, Eduardo, this has been so interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. I learned so much today, so appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having us, Kale. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys.